Welcome back to my course Industrial Biotechnology. In the last lecture, I was discussing about this cheese making process that I told you that how the cheese, what is the purpose of cheese making. I told you the cheese making is the process through which we can preserve the milk, protein and fat for the longer period of time. And I also told you that composition of the milk and also depend that what percentage of, because cheese comprises of fats and proteins, so as the percentage of fat protein increases, the yield of cheese also increases. Also it depends on the moisture content. As the moisture content increases, yield of cheese will be high. So I try to discuss that what should be the quality of the milk, that is how you determine the quality of the milk, and what is the major problem that we have in the curd making process. I told you this is the fudge contamination problem, because due to fudge is kind of virus, bacterial virus that attack the bacteria. This does not allow the bacteria to grow properly. So this is the major issue that we have. So, but this can be overcome. There are several measures for that. So, and I told you there are several steps involved for this curd making process. Those are not only of the quality of the milk, but also curd making process, kind of culture use rennet ripening process. Those process we will discuss in details in this lecture. Now, if you look at the step 1, that is curdling process, what you call curd making process. I told you the first you have to pasteurize the milk, and pasteurization is a process through which you can kill the pathogenic organism. The curdling is the separation of the liquid from the solid by addition of fermenting agent, and all cheese undergoes this initial step. The curd making is the initial step of the cheese making industries. So this is there is two ways of curdle the cheese. One is lactic curdle and simulated curdling. The lactic ferments are added to form the small grains of curd, because we use the lactic acid bacteria. So that lactic acid in presence, I show you that if the pH when it goes lower 5.2 to 5.3 to 5.2, the casein is going to precipitate out, and this is how the solidification of the the milk, protein and fat take place. An enzyme is added in the simulated curdling process, what we call rennet, to separate out this protein, or coagulated, added for the coagulated to the coagulated milk. Now, the milk is curdled with the combination of starter culture and rennet. Both is required for the separation of the separation milk, protein and fat. Starter culture turn the milk sugar to lactic acid. Rennet is added to complete the curdling process. Now, the style, texture, flavor of the cheese depends on the starter added and aging condition, because I already mentioned there are more than 500 different varieties of cheese, and cheese has different structure, different texture they have, different flavor they have. So some cheese we can take directly as a food, some cheese use as a spreader in the milk, or we know pizza in the day-to-day life we take pizza is a quite favorable dish for the children, and there is largely used. Now, this is the addition of starter in the milk. You can in the pasteurized milk we can add the starter here. This is the milk we had in the this is usually done in a vat. Then addition of rennet, that for coagulation of the milk. That rennet is kind of soluble in water. We add here rennet for precipitate out the proteins. Now, following the coagulations and firmness is checked before cutting the seed. So you can, with the help of knife, you can cut the curd and find out whether it is cutting properly or not, because that you can whether it's spreading, or whether this formation is the curd making process has come to the maturity form or not. because that carting process, from that we can find out that what is the status of the fermentation process. Now the carting operation, the carting is then cut into small pieces in order to start the separation of whey and curd, because you make it in the small blocks, because I can give the example. It is like this. So you can, if you have milk curd like this, we can with the help of this, we can card it, we can make it different blocks. We can make different blocks, we can separate out one after another. This blocks we can separate out. This is the fresh cheese curd, drained 24 to 36 hours in the draining bag, and the rinsed cheese curd into the squares by our cheese vat knives, because rinsed cheese usually the upper surface is little bit harder, and it is set another hour to let most of the whey out of the curd. So after the hard cheese curd is cut into square, it is stirred for a while to let the curd loose as much as whey as possible, and to let the curd firm as much as it can. So we make a starting like this, so that most of the water goes out and we get the solid material stick there, and this curd gets rightly flexible, and we do the cooking process. That I told you that cooking is a very important operation of the cheese making process. I will show you. This is the curd cutting operation. You can see how we are cutting. You can see that how some kind of impression is there. That cutting impression is the cut with the help of knife. This is the kind of knife that we have. The components of the milk, we have 20% whey and 80% casein. That is, this is when I told you, when the curd making process takes place, we get the whey in the form of liquid, and curd is usually the solid form. This is how it looks, because that you can easily visualize from here curd, and you can distinguish the whey and curd. The solidified material is like this. Now the whey is a liquid portion of the milk separated from the curd. It comprises of lactose as an lactoalbumin. So it is like this milk. It passes through the cheese production. We get the cheese. Then we have the raw whey. Then we pass it through the dedusting, where we get the whey dust. And then in fat separation we get the whey cream, then purified this whey through the thermal treatment to recycle or processing into different whey products, because this is a very good raw material for the lactic acid production. When I discussed the lactic acid fermentation process, I already told you that whey is a very good raw material for the production of lactic acid fermentation process. Now step for cheese makings. The process of cooking curd helps to expel the whey. So when you heat it, that will help the water to goes out and firm up. The structure will be more firm and reach the desirable acidity. Then because the acid level, if you take the most water out, then acid level will be low. The curd gets more smaller and form the more solid texture the longer they cook. I shall show you. I have some picture afterwards. I shall show you that how the texture looks, how texture of the cheese looks. Different cheeses need different amount of moisture left in the curd. When cooking curd, there is the need of stirring to prevent the settling on the bottom of the pot and clumping together. So this is like this. After brief resting period, the curd and whey mixture are stirred and cooked for 45 minutes to further form the curd. This is done. Now after that we do the draining process. Draining is the method of eliminating the whey from the curd, and proper draining is vital to drain the correct moisture content of the milk, because I have a question comes that how you preserve the milk protein and fat in the form of cheese. One is we reduce the moisture content, another we increase the lactic acid concentration. and this is the two vital factors that increase the storable characteristic or the durable characteristics of the milk, protein and fat, because this is how it is done. So you have to remove the whey accordingly, because if you remove more whey, that means you can assume the moisture content in the cheese will be less, but if you remove less, then moisture content will be low. So it depends on the, because and I already mentioned, I have shown the calculations how the moisture content affect the yield of the cheese. Now lactic draining, the whey simple drain through the curd grains for several hours. The active draining techniques, they use one of the combination of the following: stretching, kneading, cutting and stirring and cooking. These are the different process through which we can remove the whey from the curd. Now draining, once the curd is cooked, they will be ready to drain. Soft cheese, that large curd cooked at low temperature yield the soft cheese. The hard cheese is a small curd cooked at the high temperature which yield the hard cheese. Now liquid, that is, this is, now you can see the grain size here, how the solid particles is separating out from this. You can find out this liquid, it drained that fat to separate the whey from the cheese curd. You can see how it is, this is the liquid and this is the solid that we have. And this is individual curd, finally it comes in this form, in this solid form. You can see this is the solid form, it has come. And then we can make it in the piles are curd in the large lobes, and acidity of the curd is monitored, because time to time we measured what is the acid concentration, because it is very vital for the preservation of the milk, protein and fat. The piles are curd in the large lobes and acidity of the curd is monitored. So this is very important. This is, you can easily find out how the cheese looks. This is the we maintain different acidity and moisture as per our requirement. Now molding, this is very important operation. Molding means you give a different shape to the cheese. You give a different shape, and that means you put the cheese in different molds so that it comes out in different shape. So it is like this. The molding stage has to be done fast enough so that the curd will not lose its flexibility and texture. It will do very fast. Curd is placed into a desired mold. So a mold, I don't have to tell what is called mold. You know that suppose you have a mold like this. So like this, that, so if you put the cheese here, so you will get a circular type of this what do you call that cheese. So if your mold is different, if you have simple this kind of containers like this, so you will get the mold that cheese of this size. Then you can cut it like this and sell it in the market. This is usually done. The curd is placed in desired mold and let it set for 24 hours. And this is done by pressing into the necessary shape. During this time, the curd has already started to get the shape of the cheese, because this is very important. During molding, it is ensured the curd are subject to equal amount of pressure, and molded cheese can brine. We can put some kind of salt here, as in the case of feta, or treat it with other way for the desirable flavor. Because I told you the cheese we required we purposefully add some kind of color to have a typical color in the cheese. I will show you later how it is done. The flavor can also be introduced by smoking. Lot of people like the smoke flavor, soaking with wine or another liquid, or adding herbs, because you had some herbs which has some medicinal value, and spices to the curd. You know that it has give you the different type of taste. This is how different type of cheese is manufactured. The brining, after pressing, hard cheese is typically placed into salt brine to help to slow down the acid development and encourage the rin form. rind, I told you rind mean hard structure, because that if the structure of the cheese, that upper structure of the cheese is hard, then contamination problem will be less. Suppose this is the kind of cheese we have. So if the structure is hard, then the contamination problem will be less. So that is called rind. The rind is there development then. So this is required. This will help for preserving the cheese. This is the broiling operation is very important as far as cheese making is concerned. Then another operation is the ripening, because in case of different wine and other beer making industry, I mentioned the maturating of this process. They pass through the aging or maturation process, and through the maturation process, what is happening, the acid, the free organic acid, they in combination with alcohol, they form the ester, and this ester is responsible for developing the good flavor. And acid as such gives some kind of harsh flavor, so but that is not desirable. So that is why this is passed through the maturation process. Here similarly, that cheese we pass through the ripening process. Before ripening process, many different procedures are taken. I have mentioned already. Ingredients are added to give the cheese the distinct character. We can add spices, we can add herbs, you can have wine, you can have brine, we can whatever you can, as per your requirement, you can do that. And then ripening involves careful control of humidity, temperature, oxygen level to nurture the cheese and maturity. It is during the ripening process cheese checks the unique characteristics of flavor, texture and aroma, because here also during this storing process the different type of chemical reaction, that biochemical reaction will take place, that improves the flavor and textures of the cheese. This is why ripening is very important. Aging of cheese is also very important. This is at this stage the cheese may be inoculated with flavoring mold, bathing brine, wrapping with cloths or hay before depositing in a place or proper temperature and humidity. Some cheeses are aged for a month, some up to several years. Aging sharpens the flavor of the cheese. Cheddar is aged more than 2 years. Some cheeses may develop a rind naturally as their surface is dried. I told you that rind means there is a process through which the surface of the cheese is little bit harder, so that contamination problem will be less, and other rinds may form due to the growth of bacteria that spray on the surface of the cheese. So the ripening may be done in of two kinds, or the interior ripening. The ripening starts within and occurs throughout the body of the cheese. Cheese is vacuum packed in or wax to ensure that no oxygen reaches the surface. So you might be here. I hope everybody knows that there is a important that process things is there happens to the food material, that is called rancidity. Rancidity is kind of degradation of the fat molecules, because fat when undergo rancidity it produces some kind of organic acid, and you know that different organic acid, they are responsible for developing different type of bad flavors, though that is undesirable. That is usually take place in presence of oxygen. So when you do the waxing, that will give a kind of barrier for the oxygen to come in contact with the food material, the cheese material. So the rancidity of the cheese will be reduced. The possibility is reduced to a great extent. The cheese in vacuum packed and waxed to ensure no oxygen reaches the surface. The cheese with eyes, the Swiss type holes are formed in the soft part of the cheese caught by bacteria. Cheese no eyes, because inside the cheese you will find some kind of hole. This is called eye. This is eye of the cheese. So this is not desirable. So some cases cheddar should be uniformly smooth structured, that it should be there. Now another is the surface ripening. Ripening started on the surface. The BPS, the interior ripening, means ripening take place throughout this cheese. But in the surface ripening, it is taking place only on the surface and progresses to the interior. First it occurred at the surface, then to the interior part. Microorganisms are applied to the surface of the cheese, and then cheese are surface rind. The examples are bloomy rind and was rind. These are two type of rind we have. This is occurred by using the penicillium culture. It's sprayed on the surface. Then ripening. There are also cheeses which does not undergo ripening process, what you call unripening, or what you call fresh cheese. Fresh cheese that is carved and packaged and distributed sales after the draining. And Baconsini, this is an unripe cheese. I already discussed at the beginning of my lecture that what do you mean by fresh cheese. In case of fresh cheese, I mentioned that high acid formation take place, and due to high acid formation take place, the storability of the things increases, and it can directly goes to the market. This is unripe. It doesn't go in the ripening process. So in case of pasta filata, this is the Italian term of cheese made from the curd that is heated to in hot way and mechanically stretched before being pressed into mold. So the resulting cheese is more elastic. Examples are the Fior di Latte, this is Casio Carvello, this is Mozzarella, then Bocconcini. This is different type of cheese. Is rind. There is solidification of the surface. I told you it provides the protection against the humidity loss, harmful bacteria, and damage due to handling. So these are the different purpose whatever the rind operation is carried out. One is wash, refer to the process by which the rind of certain cheese are washed periodically during the ripening, and resulting the coppering or beige color of the mamirole and oca. Then blooming, a white and velvety that rind usually found in soft cheese. It is produced by spraying the cheese surface with penicillium. Wax, this is edible grade paraffin and non-edible, both can be used, but usually we prefer the edible grade paraffin. Wax spray on or hand dipped to protect the curd. Mixed, we have referred to blend the mold of bacteria and other elements that produce can use and provide different rind structure and flavor aroma. This is the aging of cheese. You can see this is the cheese. We keep it in the different rack. We can keep it maybe weeks to years. 1 year you can keep, and during this process some kind of chemical alternation take place. It develop different flavor, sharpness of the cheese that take place. The aging longer cheese is more flavor development. Most are highly acidic. Therefore will kill any harmful bacteria while allowing the flavor impairing mold to remain. Some mold are only found very specific region or even in certain caves, meaning that wide range of cheeses can be produced all over the world. That is the aging of cheese. That is very important. I told you the different color, different types of cheese. I told you that one example is the blue cheese. That blue cheese is generally, you can see the structure of the cheese. The lot of blue color is there inside the cheese. It is not perfectly yellow or white. The blue cheese is generally classified as the cheese that have the culture of mold penicillium. It has little bit greenish color, though it gives some kind of bluish type of color, so that final product is spotted and veined throughout the blue or blue-gray mold and carrying the distinct smell either from that or various type of cultivated bacteria. Some blue cheese are injected with spores before the curds are formed, and other spores mix with the curd after they form. The blue cheeses are typically aged in a temperature controlled environment such as caves. The blue cheese can be eaten by yourself and can spread and crumble and melted into what the food. Other examples, similar example, are cheddar that we have. I told you this is very hard cheese. This is usually used in UK, and this is they have very big market, that is $1.9 million pounds, that world market that we have, that the UK market that we have with the cheddar. This looks like this. This is largely used during the breakfast, and this is another type of that cheese also largely used. This is what we call Roquefort. This is the cheap produced from sheep milk blue cheese. From that, the south of France, and is one of the most one of the world best known blue cheese. This is and this cheese is white, tangy, crumbly, and slightly moisture with distinct hint of blue molds. It has the characteristic odor and flavor with a notable taste of butyric acid. Then the blue veins provide a sharp tang, and it has no rind. The hardness will not be there. Exterior is visible and slightly salty. So this is the things that we have, and there are several links we have. If you visit this link, you can get more information on the cheese making process, and you will find this is very interesting. So in conclusion, what I want to tell, that cheese is a very important product nowadays, as per biochemical industry or biotechnology industry is concerned, that cheese is largely available throughout the world, and it is available in different types. Different characteristics of cheese are there. We have hard cheese, we have soft cheese, we have semi-soft cheese, we have fresh cheese, we have processed cheese. As per our requirement, we can use that. And I can tell you, particularly pizza is a common item that we use in the that is largely used by the people. That is usually made from mozzarella cheese or other cheese also, which has some kind of elastic property. So this I told you that the cheese making process depends on the water, that milk quality. It depends on the starter that you use. It depends on the enzymes, the rennet that you use. It depends on the cooking temperature. It depends on the salting process. So different types of ripening process, rind that we have. So different steps are involved, different processes are involved before we get the cheese, final cheese product in the market. So the main purpose, again I am telling you, for the cheese making industry is to preserve the milk, protein and fat for longer period of time, so that because it is a very good, it has very good nutritional value. So for the human food, so that we can use this for longer period. And not only that, it is a very good texture and flavored and taste. So a lot of people like this. So with this, let me conclude this cheese making process. Thank you.